It's been a productive week. We're going to talk about a few things, mainly concerning the airport, some responses from the FAA, and hopefully you've had a chance to look through. Sorry, I posted it pretty late last night, but a response letter that Christie put together. So if you're watching this a little bit later, stick around. We'll jump into a conversation and answer your questions. So, and I would encourage you, go check out, we've overhauled the Advanced Etowah website. Put a few folks have put in some good work into that, and trying to make it easier to find information. So love your feedback on that as well. All right. Wow, we got 20 people jumping on first thing in the morning.
Good morning, everyone.
So I thought about, trying to call this like tea time with Christie, which is...
I've converted him to tea.
Now, I wouldn't... Yeah. She gave me a mug that says, "Please do not confuse your Google search with my law degree." Although I appreciate everyone's Google searches over the last 8 months because it's turned up a lot of good information.
That is true. Valid point. As Google is a powerful tool.
So how is everyone doing this morning? If you wouldn't mind just dropping a comment that the audio is all good, that you can hear us before we dive into too much stuff. And as always, drop a question. Again, we'll focus on the airport, where we stand on some things. All right, Reba's on with us.
Good morning, Reba.
First to comment, of course.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dustin. All right,
hey,
thank
Dustin.
you. All right, good. And my wife's on.
Hey, Kenzie.
Working hard. Hopefully we won't be too distracting. I imagine she won't listen too much because she's got a bunch of work to do to get a bunch of plumbers out the door in the morning.
Got you. Yeah, it's a busy time of the day, no doubt.
Yeah. So I appreciate everybody. This why the 7:30 in the morning? Well, to be honest, it was really the only time that our schedules worked out over the next few days, and we did not want to hold off on getting some of this stuff out. I will again. Who's had a chance to read through all 197 pages?
Sorry, y'all.
Of the document. Well, I mean, in all fairness, you did not write all 197 pages.
Yeah.
There was a wonderful letter from Coosa Riverkeeper.
There was 2 wonderful letters.
Yeah.
Coosa Riverkeeper not only did the ADIM letter, but they did an additional FAA letter, which is amazing. That's the first letter. Justin, it's the palm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess before we go too much further, I definitely would like to say a huge thank you to Congressman Adderholt. That's definitely something that we'll talk through as we go through what that means. But huge thank you to Congressman Adderholt. That is a very big deal, guys, and I hope everybody realizes that. And the fact that he's listening and paying attention to his constituents, that's if you want to call that political strategy just to earn votes, I really don't care. That's kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
So
we did a call to action. People responded. He heard us.
Yep.
That's how it's supposed to work. That it was great. So
now, just so you guys know, I mean, there was a lot of work done in this group, but there was also a very heavy lift from Craig Lips and Christie working together. But I'm guessing Craig and Andrew probably spent the majority of the time on the phone with his staff and trying to really explain the situation down here and really get them to pay attention. And then I think the flood of emails and everything just kind of pushed it over I think
they were trying to make sure he understood the gravity and the extent and the intensity of the concern. And I think that they were obviously doing a great job of doing that. But then when the call to action happened and people responded, I think they went, oh, yeah, this is what we're being told that it is. And so it was a really big deal for the group to push that and help his staff and Congressman Adderholt to understand that it was what Senator Jones and Representative Lipscomb were telling him it was.
All right. And before we go any further, I did great. Thank you, Andrew Richardson. Put a comment in there about the fly-in get together on the 24th of this month. It kind of works in conjunction with a lot of folks flying up to Oshkosh. If you're in aviation, you know all about Oshkosh. But we'll get a lot of airplanes that'll fly through this area, traveling up to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, for the largest air show in the world. And they put together a fly-in and a get-together, so you'll see some planes coming in, and everybody's welcome to come out there and check out the aircraft, and it should be a good time. So put that on your calendar. All right, let's get into what you came here for. So let's start with what's a quick, short summary for those folks that got to get back to work and quit paying attention, or they just want the 2-minute soundbite. Where are we at with things with the airport?
Well, if you'll recall, last week, Pilgrims stated that it intended to file the Form 7460 notice of construction with the FAA because without getting the authorization that it had previously requested from the airport authority, taking the position they didn't have to have authorization from the airport authority, that anyone could file these notices for construction on the airport. And Jonathan Welch, on behalf of the airport authority, gave a statement to the Gadsden Times that said, anybody can file. The airport authority does not have to authorize them in order to file any notice of construction with the FAA. Since then, we have been in communication with the FAA asking that question, and the FAA says no, that we will not consider or review any submission by anybody unless the sponsor, the airport, authorizes it. And so, which means that if the FAA has or is going to file forms with the FAA is not going to consider that unless the airport authority authorizes them. So we're back to where we were, which is the airport authority is going to have to pick. They're going to have to decide, do you want the rendering plant here? If so, you're going to have to vote on that and authorize Pilgrims to go to the FAA, go to the city to try to get it rezoned. So we're kind of back to where we were, which is what it ought to be. Put up or shut up, airport authority. Do you want it or do you not want it? And that we're sort of, so now the airport authority is saying that they're going to have a public hearing after, we don't know the date yet, but it will be sometime after the July 23rd court date, where they will consider both the Pilgrim's proposal and the group, the Etowah community group that has come together to make an offer. They will consider all of the proposals, and I'm assuming they will decide. So,
all right. Well, there you go, guys. All right, y'all have a great day. No, that's for those of you, that's really kind of the long and the short of it is it is back in. Well, it actually never was not.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. Mm-hmm. It is still right now sitting on the doorstep of the Gadsden Airport Authority. Harry McClendon and those guys, they can make the decision. They hold the. Well, right now, I guess. I mean, it hasn't always been them, but right now they very much hold the fate of Etowah County in their hands, and how they handle this.
That's absolutely right. Now, that's not to say that if the council if they came publicly out and said, we're not going to rezone this property, that the votes aren't there. Now, that would change an equation too, but they're saying they won't do that until the airport authority decides what they're going to do. So everybody's still pointing the fingers that it's not us, it's them. But at some point, again, they're going to have to put up or shut up. And are you going to decide? Because they're going to have to decide in order for this project to move ahead. Mm-hmm.
So let's dig deeper into all that synopsis. I guess the good stuff, we can start with the good stuff, which is the letter and the giant stack of papers. And again, guys, if you guys have not read that, we dropped that last night, posted that in the opposition group and shared it around. You don't be intimidated by 197 pages. Definitely encourage you to thumb through, but for sure read through the entire letter that Christie put together and submitted to the Gas and Airport Authority. So what's the nature? Where that letter? What's that all about?
If you'll recall, the Etowah community, the group that came together to offer to buy the land, submitted its proposal on June the 22nd in response to the Pilgrims' proposal. On June the 25th, Pilgrims wrote a letter to the Airport Authority, which, was in the newspaper, and we've talked about extensively on this page, criticizing the Etowah community offer, calling it a dreamt-up offer, and questioning the financial ability of the group in order to buy the land. They also, it was a 2-page letter to the Airport Authority saying, we are a public entity. We have finances and we have abilities more than what this group does. And so this letter is a response to the criticisms that Pilgrims raised to the Airport Authority in relation to the Etowah community offer that was made. And mainly what I go through, there will be a supplemental Etowah community and the group that's come together. There's now 25. I think we're about to have 26. People in this area come in. So we'll talk more about that. But I just want to talk about this response.
And I think it's worth saying, and being, I've seen discussions about transparency and all that kind of stuff with this whole investment and development. Obviously, once especially this much money starts to be at play, there's going to be probably some more what's the best word, snarkiness or questioning of things. But please understand with the development as it moves forward, there's a lot of that stuff that's just the I guess I'd say the game of business in terms of revealing too much information too quickly. This is becoming a competitive thing between the groups. So guys, more information is going to come out on all that kind of stuff. I just don't want anybody getting frustrated that we're not putting out all the details and we're trying to be close-hold with information about any of that. That's kind of where we're at right now. So
once we have the public hearing date, right, and we know, is it a week from now? Is it 2 months from now? We don't know when that public hearing date. And as the Etowah community proposal, it literally evolves every week. More resources keep coming in. And so
that's awesome.
It is really great. And so I almost hate to drop all of the details this week when we have imagine what we can do in another month.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that sort of strategy. When we thought that the public hearing might be, this week or next, we had it ready. It was ready to go, but now we've learned it's going to be another month. So we're going to hold off and see as this thing grows and grows.
Yep.
So absolutely, there will be all the transparency everybody wants once we know what that public hearing date is. And if you want to private message me, I'll talk to you about it. I'll share what I can. So
please. Don't start 1,000 of you. Messaging her. I mean, you can, but she's got a lot to do.
Yeah,
so we'll get to what you got to do next week. But all right, back to the letter.
So this letter, and it really addresses, if one of the arguments Pilgrims made is we're better because we're a publicly traded, entity on the stock exchange, and we've got this and this and that, and we all know. This group has researched tremendously what some of the Pilgrims Pride challenges have, had. So this letter it's short compared to what could have been said about the concerns that if you're going to raise concerns about the Etowah community offer, well, let's talk about the Pilgrims Pride concerns that are legitimate business quality of life concerns. This group's posted about them over and over again, but the attempt is to do a short letter in order to do that. And I use this public filings that Pilgrims has made. These are most of this is their own words about what they've said about the challenges. And when you compare Pilgrim's Pride's credit rating and Pilgrim's Pride's financial status and what they report in the public, what the public filings say, their own words, Etowah community, in my opinion, has, just as much, if not more, financial capability of putting this here. And when you're talking about 25, 26 people coming together, not only when you have the financial resources that go with that, but this group also involves real estate developers and contractors and marketing and sales and all these different skill sets that come around. They employ over 800 people in our county right now. They have 800 years of business experience in our county. And so when you compare those two, I believe that the better pick for the airport authority, if it's going to come down to that, where they have to decide whether a rendering plant or the Etowah community offer, clearly Etowah community building a light industrial park is the better offer. So I try to take the public filings and a member of the group, actually, this was an idea he came up with. So I want to give credit where credit is due. He doesn't want me to tell who his name was, but it was, and I get that all the time, guys. You send me information, I read it. I look at it and I get a lot of good ideas. So I had a member who is familiar with public filings and credit ratings send me a bunch of information. And I was like, that's a genius idea. So we just took their own words and put it in here and expressed that really, when it all comes down to it, in my opinion, and Etowah community would be, would be the much better offer and create something for the community that's a lot better than a rendering plant. And not only is it 100, and then I'll go that, and then there's links. You can tell I put a little, so there's actually probably more than 196 pages. It's probably 500 pages when you read all of these links. And then I also pointed out all the local support from CUSA and GASP and the Medical Society and the Realtors and all of that. So yeah, it's a lot to dig in, but if you just read the letter, you get a good idea of what we're trying to say. Well,
so yeah, again, go read through the letter. There's tons of good numbers, and a lot of stuff that a lot of folks have probably seen throughout this process. As we talk about the two offers on the table, I think it's worth noting that we shouldn't have to make this purchase offer.
Right.
That all these folks coming together, if things were functioning the way they should, then that land would continue to be owned by the taxpayers, would be managed by the airport authority, would be part of a master development plan of the airport and a master development plan of Etowah County, all working in conjunction to develop and probably use some of these same developers, these same investors to expand their businesses and to attract other businesses. So I know somebody's going to say at some point, well, so that's what this was all about, was buying the property, and that's so there, nothing could be further from the truth.
Right. These people are coming together,
right,
to provide an alternative because they feel like they have to,
right,
not because they see some great opportunity to invest. Right. I mean, it can be, and
absolutely,
they can turn it into that, but that's not what the motivation is. It's the IDA's job to do this.
Right.
It's the airport authority's job to do this. And this group has come together and said, those government entities aren't doing their job.
Right.
So we're going to do their job for them.
Right.
They've got other things they can do.
Yeah.
They've got 800 employees that they can manage. But because they can't, because of the rendering plant and the catastrophic effect that could have on us, they are like, you know what? We'll be part of a group that if that's what it takes, that's what I'll do. So It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this whole thing is just one thing after another of proof how amazing Etowah County can be and how amazing the people that we have here are, and so I mean it's a good thing. Will it be profitable? 800 years of combined experience. I mean, I think the group certainly has a proven track record of success. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly could end up that way, but I definitely think it's worth noting that it shouldn't have to work that way. That all these folks shouldn't have to put so much. I mean, they are risking a lot. Don't forget about that. So,
but the very nature of this group, it will succeed because that's what this group does. But their definition of success is that the rendering plant stopped. That's what they're doing this for. And so, and I don't, and it's just another going along with what you just said as well. I don't think that either Pilgrims or the powers that be here in the city understand. This group does, but they don't understand that this county is saying whatever it takes, whatever we have to do, we're going to stop it. And every time you try to come up with another way in order to bring this rendering plant here, when you have so many people committed, we will find a way to block that or to create another option. So
we'll just keep with all these horrible political strategies to get votes.
And that's powerful when congressmen see that.
Yeah.
They write letters. And that's because this group, the commitment this group has, and I think people are starting to fully understand that because it's unusual. You got to give it to people. Don't really believe you when you tell them like, no, you don't understand how intense this group is. But then when they see it, they're like, yeah, you're right. It's pretty. Yeah, they really mean it. I'm like, yeah, they really mean it. So.
All right. So, quick question. Somebody dropped in there. Has Gadsden Community proposal been pitched to the IDA? We talked through that a little bit earlier. But if you missed that, no, that proposal has not been pitched, and really, from Gadsden, from its Etowah community, that pitch is not to the IDA.
It's to the airport authority.
Actually, the IDA has zero to do with anything that we would do from a development standpoint. The IDA's function they have no control. They are a separate company, simply contracted by the city of Gadsden.
And you have to understand, David Hooks, he said in court under oath, he wants the rendering plant here, and that he's going to take.
He thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread for Etowah County.
And he is going to proceed with that goal in mind, and that's what he intends to do. So,
in fact, he, I believe, was quoted as basically saying, "Well, we must love his plan because we're copying his plan," and that was a few weeks ago in the Gadsden Times after he gave his presentation on his whole master plan, which so the plan is to develop industry at the airport area and the other areas that should be developed for industry. I'm not really sure how incredible that is that we're copying.
Well, when he said that, the what he was referring to was, it appeared, was not only his plan, but to Pilgrim's Pride's, the offer, that they made to the member of the Pilgrim's Pride made the offer to the airport authority, the most recent one, the June 16th one. That was to the airport authority, not the IDA. But when David Hooks was quoted in the Gadsden Times talking about that offer, he said, we, like Pilgrims and Hooks, we. He was including in the quote Pilgrims and himself in this we about how good that proposal was. So, we've got the director of the IDA talking in terms of we when it comes to Pilgrim's Pride. So, we're not pitching to the IDA. That's not where we at. Pilgrims wrote a letter to the airport authority. we did a corresponding letter to the airport authority. Pilgrims wrote a follow-up letter saying our offer isn't any good, and this is our response. This
Right.
that you just posted last night is our response to that.
So yeah, there's the long version of the answer to nothing. There's no intention to ever discuss anything with the IDA. There's no point. There's absolutely, they have no control, no authority, and that's it. So I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're not asking for any approval from them.
Yeah.
All right. I think before we go too much further, let's address email exchange with the FAA. Let me get that up on the screen real quick. So this, you mentioned in your quick summary where the FAA stands and what you understand we're at with the FAA. So you guys can read the email response, but I'll let you talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so that's really good. You know, we heard last week that Pilgrims sent a letter to the Gadsden Times, the airport authority, that it intended to file the notice of construction forms with the FAA, that Ken Gilbert, the airport authority's consultant, had told Pilgrims that they did not have to get authorization from the airport authority in order to file those with the FAA, and intended to, with all due haste, continue to proceed on. And then I think in an article in the Gadsden Times on the following day, I think it was, that Jonathan Welch, who's a member of the airport authority and the attorney for the IDA both, he stated it's his understanding anyone can file a notice of construction with the FAA, which made us sort of scratch. How do you file a notice of construction if there's no agreement? And then what are you saying? So anybody that proposes to build on your land, airport authority, we can just file notices with the FAA, whether you've authorized it or not. So I reached out to the FAA, and this is the email back going, can they do that? Will you consider a notice of construction if the airport authority has not authorized it? And they said no, that they will not review any submission from Pilgrims or anybody else, I'm sure, without authorization. So the airport authority is going to have to authorize Pilgrims or Etowah community or whatever if the FAA process is going to continue.
And so that reiterates, and I saw a comment that somebody brought up. I can't find it here, but the point, the FAA is not going to decide local development issues.
Yeah.
That is not the role of the FAA. I know I've said that quite a bit through this process. Their job is to ensure safety of aircraft, compliance with the federal aviation regulations. That's exactly why when they put out information about airport development, when they talk about development as it pertains to attractants of wildlife or wildlife attractants and how close they can be and all that kind of stuff, it's all in what's called an advisory circular. That is not a regulation or a law. That is literally, hey, airports, this is what the FAA recommends you do as far as zoning development, all of that kind of stuff. So the FAA's role is not to tell local airports, oh yeah, you can build that or not build that. It all has to do with, is that in the benefit of the airport? Is that in compliance with federal aviation regulations? And Wes, thankfully, the FAA replied with that response, which again, why we're scratching heads when they said, oh yeah, just anybody can submit, so I'm glad that we're our understanding of what's going on with the FAA, and that we have that now, a good clear answer from him for moving forward with that. So
if the airport authority does proceed, if they do, they're supposed to have this hearing, this public hearing, to consider all of the proposals. If Pilgrim's Pride is the one that they choose, there is a cascade of different strategies that we have in place in order to fight that on the FAA front, the rezoning front. There's others that I just can't really go into right now, but there's lots of different fronts. But the good news is that Pilgrims is not going to be able to go down the FAA route like they claimed that they were going to, without the airport authority having to make that choice, and then that gives us the opportunity to identify clearly who is placing us in this position.
Well, and maybe Pilgrims got that concept and that idea because they went out and did a bunch of land surveys, did all this work to get ADEM permits without any permission from the airport authority.
I mean, Pilgrims appears to be dictating what happens with the airport authority, the city. They seem to have their way with these guys, and they even have the airport authority consultant apparently trying to help them find ways that they can proceed without the airport authority even approving it. So it wouldn't surprise me that Pilgrims would assume, why on earth can't we just proceed? We've always just proceeded with doing what we want anyway.
I mean, that the same. I mean, it's just the same thing over and over again. Hey, we're going to submit or send out a bunch of subpoenas, but we're not even included as a party to the case. As a party to the case, we're just going to assume we can do what we want to do because we're Pilgrim's Pride, and that seems to be the road they're going.
We've seen that from the start. That's nothing new. So that's why when we assume the airport authority is going to continue those actions, and that concerns us, that's why. Maybe that will change. The hope is that maybe the airport authority members have become educated, and quite honestly, if as a city leader, even if you didn't want to take a position, at some point, don't you just get irate? Like, how do you come in and treat our people this way and just try to run all over us? At some point, don't you just bow up about that and say, okay, but that's just enough. I mean, and because it's not going to stop. I mean, they need to realize that somebody's got to stop them, which is what we're doing, or they're going to continue. And so,
and we've said all along, from the very beginning, some of the actions that were taken, it's scary to think once Pilgrims has their claws in, once they've broken ground and actually own property here. I mean, look at how this is going. They were asked in the very, very beginning of all of this. I believe it was Mike Clark asked the gentleman from Pilgrims, have you ever not pursued things with a community? And he answered, well, of course, if there's not community support. I'm not really sure what you define as not community support. Folks over in Georgia, they not only didn't have the community support, but they also weren't going to get the votes and the approval to move forward with construction. So I'm definitely curious as to, well, just how much not support do we need to do? So, I mean, hey, if there's a magic number in this Facebook group, like, I mean, share it up, invite folks. I'm wondering, because I mean, we're pretty much at a minimum 10% of Etowah County, which is definitely more people than probably turn out to vote, or have turned out to vote traditionally, which, by the way, might be part of the problem why we're here in the situations that we're in. So there's a plug for how do you do your part
to
stay vigilant,
to fix this after this is all over. Yeah, and so what it appears, and we've said this, that someone, or there's some understanding that the votes are there from the governmental bodies that have to vote, the airport authority and the city, that the votes are there, that despite the overwhelming public outcry, hang on, that somehow I would assume they wouldn't be here still if there wasn't a belief that the votes are there. And so I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that's what in Franklin County, once they realized the votes from leadership weren't there, they dropped their petition. They went away. So one would extrapolate from that situation to here that is a fact that does not exist in this case right
Right.
now. And until it does, then they're going to still be here, which is why we continue to put the pressure on the airport authority and the city to just say, right now, if your position is you haven't taken a position, we construe that as you're in favor of it. You are helping it come here by
Yes.
taking that position. It's
Absolutely.
been 9 months. It's too late. It's been too long for you to go, I'm doing my research, or I don't know. If you're not taking a position, you are aiding and abetting them being here.
Right.
Period. And people will remember that you didn't say anything. So come out of the dark.
Yep.
If you're for it, put up or shut up. If you're for it, say it. If you're not, say it, and let's just move on to whatever's next.
I, for one, will respect you more.
That's right.
If you're for it and you argue why, like, I can respect that. But yeah, the wishy-washy, and as I'm learning in the political game, well, if I just don't say anything and do nothing, then it'll blow over and I won't get pulled into it. That ain't happening with this issue.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot more issues that are definitely coming to light as we get a lot more of the community talking about things that are going on. For example, the flooding issues in East Gadsden. Mm-hmm. I was not aware of any of those issues because it's not been made as public, at least to the things I pay attention to. Mm-hmm. Well, now I'm paying attention to that, and that is definitely something that we as a community need to get after figuring out how to fix. So we got a couple quick answers here. Have we gotten a ruling from Judge Day regarding allowing Pilgrim's Pride to intervene?
No, we've not gotten a ruling yet.
All right.
It will come sometime before the hearing on July the 23rd.
All right. And what level of confidence do we have that all documents subpoenaed have been submitted?
None. None. So we are still pursuing that. There's records. We're still pursuing that. It's an ongoing process. We've been talking to the attorneys for all of these parties about gathering more. And so that is ongoing. We've got depositions Monday of Larry Means, David Hooks, and Bill Green. Depositions Thursday of Frankie Davis, Cynthia Tolles, the city engineer, and my brain's just not working. But so we part of that. It's early. So part of that will be hopefully there's some records that we may receive as part of that, or I may find out exist that I can ask for. So that's an ongoing process and will be ongoing until the final hearing, October 12th.
All right.
But let me point something out. At this point, and I'm still seeking before the record seeking was to prove and to establish that we were where we're saying that these negotiations had been happening, that all these parties were involved, and that they had already cut whatever deal, whether it's verbal, handshake, whatever this deal is. That's the judge's order made that clear, that's what's happened. So we can go through and I feel almost like that question, whether or not all these parties were really, moving ahead and doing what we say, we've proven that. I feel like all those records show that. The judge gets that. So we'll still ask for all of those, but we're going to talk about that some, but we're moving on a lot to what's going to stop it. We know how it got here now. We know who did it. So we're going to keep asking that, but we're moving on to some other stuff too.
And I guess it's worth noting as we talk about that suit, the airport authority today could come out and say, we've decided not to sell the property, period, to anybody, and we're not going to lease it. And everything would be done.
Exactly.
The suit would be done. We're not going to argue about it. We don't have to worry about rezoning or any of that kind of stuff. The $600 an hour lawyers can go back to Birmingham. All the other attorney fees, all that done, and it stops.
Just like that.
And we'd be fine with that. Although I think at this point you got a lot of investors that are like, This is pretty cool. This is pretty exciting, which is why we keep getting phone call after phone call after phone call of I want to be involved. I want to be involved.
And we'd be afraid that they would pick it back up
Right.
in 6 months. That's why elections are so important.
Yep.
We've got to get new people in office and clean house so that we don't end up with the airport authority that, a year from now lets them in again. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, just worth noting, all this money that's being spent on this case, it could all be done if the airport authority says we don't want to sell the land.
This nonsense
Yes.
could end.
Yes.
And it is nonsense
Yes, it
with
is.
one vote. And we could all focus on things that we need to. I mean.
All right. Back to some of the documents there. I am not convinced the draft, in quotes, MOU was not presented to Pilgrims. They would not have proceeded with the financial expenditures they included unless that
Me
occurred.
neither. I agree, but that's what we're being told at this point in time.
Now, I would buy that perhaps that actual MOU that I guess was stolen by some hacker in Switzerland, or where was it?
It was a whistleblower at City Hall.
Right, I know.
Who
I know.
released it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not. It was not. It was not the hackers.
Yeah, I'm not buying the whole hacker thing.
Yeah.
But that's another day. Mm-hmm.
So I would buy that perhaps that was a draft letter and that was never physically given, but everything would seem that at least at the very least verbal discussions were had along the exact same lines of that MOU at the minimum.
Well, that would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, Michael, and that didn't happen. So there's no agreement. So
yeah. Well, but and they getting the county the city council to put this through will be no problem. Getting the airport authorities, no problem. Getting the water boards, no problem. I don't know. I think those discussions, who knows? And maybe we never will know, especially since they seem to feel pretty comfortable kind of saying whatever they want to say.
That's right. So they're saying, they allege $2 million on engineering drawings alone and all this money, but there's no agreement anywhere. And
that's bad business. I mean, maybe that's why they have the financial problems they have.
This is kind of what they do. They do this stuff a lot. So the idea that they'd have no that's what they say. I'm just telling you that's what they say. Again, because such an agreement, if it existed, would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, in my opinion.
Right.
And we can't have that. So, that's all been a concern about what exactly do they have. But for now, they're saying that there is no written agreement and the MOU was just a draft.
Who's learned more about the Open Meetings Act than they ever thought? I mean, how many people 8 months ago didn't even know that was really a thing?
We will have the most. It's been a civics lesson on speed here in this county, and we will have the most educated voters we have ever had coming in to next year. That's exciting to me. That is really exciting.
All right. What if Pilgrim's Pride finds another piece of property?
Yeah, and that's what we've heard. We've heard rumors that they're not going on the airport. They're going here. We keep our ear to the ground, and we constantly try to get as much information as. It's really hard for secrets to be kept in Etowah County right now. So I hear a lot of stuff, and we spend time, utilizing the resources we have, asking those questions when those rumors come up, and they're everywhere, that there's a property here and they're trying to find another place. Right now, there's only a couple of I-2 zones. And so one is, in the landfill was where they had, that was one of the original 3 spots that they had. And then, then the old steel plant is the other I-2, and then Goodyear is an I-2, and the property on Air Depot Road out there is too. So those are where those are. So anything else would have to be rezoned if it was in the city, if they were buying a private owner's piece of land. And then the question, if they're in the county, they wouldn't have to rezone, but they would have to get water and sewer to it.
Right.
So we've got kind of this, even if you're in the county, the city would have to, or the county, someone would have to run sewer if you were in the county out there somewhere. And so then our focus would be on the Gadsden Waterworks then, about running with the water and sewer if the zoning was not an issue. So yeah, those are all many arms to the octopus that we have on our radar, and I get texts and messages all the time about rumors.
The short answer is we'll fight it there too.
Absolutely. Anywhere in Etowah County.
Yep, anywhere in Etowah County. I'm not so sure if one of our neighboring counties came out and said they don't want it, we probably would jump in and help them too at this point. So, but that, I mean, that could happen. Although I'd really be shocked that some landowners at this point around Etowah would want to sell it to them. But, stranger things.
And I think part of what you're seeing too is there's some political leaders in town that either are in office or are contemplating a run for office, and their positions are, I don't want it at the airport. And I think our group has a problem with that we don't want it anywhere, but they're not willing to take that step that we don't want it anywhere here. Imagine if, like you were saying earlier, if this company, what they're doing now, and they don't even own property here. Imagine if they ever got here, what they would do. And so our position is nowhere in Etowah County. And those leaders who are saying, "Oh, I just don't want it at the airport," I don't think this group is going to agree with that.
All right, Jerry Cook said, "What was that MOU saying the city council has gotten rubber stamp?" That might be one way to summarize what that letter said.
Yeah,
so
that's what it said.
That was never submitted, but it was drafted. All right, let me see what else we got. There were some other questions, and then we probably ought to get out of here because you got work to do to get ready for depositions.
I do. Monday morning.
Have any financial information been turned in from Pilgrim's Pride or IDA or Gadsden Airport Authority or what is COG?
City of Gadsden.
City of Gadsden. All right. Yeah. That's yeah. Maybe I need more tea.
I know you do. Any financial information?
Yeah.
So Pilgrim's Pride is all public. You can go onto the Securities and Exchange website. You can Google Pilgrim's Pride.
Or you could read her letter.
Or read my letter. So they have a bunch of financial statements that are out there. You can look at that. And in fact, like I said, I had a member of this group, share his insights with me after he read over those. The City of Gadsden's, their budget and their audited financials are on their website too. You can go and look at that there. The Airport Authority, their financials are public as well as their audits. We subpoenaed those and we have those. The IDA is a private entity. We can't get anything. They refuse to give us anything, and taking the position but we will certainly, ask Mr. Hooks when we depose him what the sources of his funding are, if it's more than just what the city pays.
Which is scary, and as that has been really set in stone that's the structure of the IDA, that they are a private entity. I'm really kind of shocked that we haven't seen more folks come out and say, "Bob, let's get rid of that. Like we have to change that." Whether you restructure the IDA or whatever that looks like, but that if I was on the city council, and I know Jason Wilson has very very much expressed that concern, but I mean, folks, that's scary. That's really, really scary. All right. I haven't read all of this, so we'll see where it goes. One suggestion: anyone in this group interested in serving as a future planning commission member, I'd be happy to share my experience and how to prepare yourself and your resume for consideration for the position.
Who's that?
It's a Facebook user, so I can't see who the profile is, but in the comments you guys can see it. So that's been one of the cool things. We've got a lot of folks that have varying backgrounds. Great conversation last week with Mr. Fred Zachary. You want to talk about a guy qualified to talk about the issues that we have going on here. He and I'd encourage you. He's doing his show Introspection.
It's at noon.
Yep, noon every day on AM 1240.
WMGJ.
Yeah, WMGJ. If you didn't watch that last week or haven't seen that video, he's one of the guys throughout this process that can sit there and say, well, welcome to the party.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been talking about this along with Carolyn Parker for a long, long time, but he comes from a background of running Washington, D.C. and being a part of that, economic development, including master's degree. Sadly, he went to the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
But yeah, so that I mean, and there are just so many more people that have got such amazing qualifications.
But they're not buddies with the mayor.
Absolutely.
That's the only qualification it appears that you need in order to. That's in most. I have to say, there's members of the planning commission that are and a lot of these other boards that there are shining stars on that. So that's not all of them. It's unfortunate though that the airport authority and the IDA, certain members of the IDA, we're certainly seeing that. I'm hopeful that the planning commission, if this makes it to the planning commission on a rezoning, would vote no. But again, it's all they do is recommend it to the city council. The city council ultimately has the final call.
Right. And I mean, and from the planning standpoint, a conversation that needs to be had over the next 12 months as we go to the election in August. We need a plan. I mean, like, we need a master plan for the county, and we need to get people that are willing to talk about those things, and we need to figure out how to get after that, and we need representation of all the different aspects of Etowah County, from the municipalities and just a lot of. I mean, we've got a pretty diverse county, and that's something that has to happen. And if, I mean, in my opinion, if we don't figure out how to do that, then we're just going to keep doing more of the same stuff.
Right.
So guys, again, if you've ever wanted to run for politics, get involved. We need you. We absolutely need you.
You're involved in politics now.
Yeah.
If you're watching this.
Yes. Christie's not going to run for mayor. I know there's a lot of folks, but we need her fighting for us. And the legal team keep going down the path that we're going, and that's where she needs to be. And I'll support her in that decision. Although, yes, she'd make a killer mayor. And to be honest with you, we got some folks out there that are way more qualified to be the mayor than Christie.
Way more qualified.
That's so excited. But yeah, from the politics, as I understand it, next month. So the 12 months out. That's when they can start campaigning. You'll see. I think Andrew already had his kickoff. Craig Lipscomb is planning the end of this month. I can post the date in the comments, or maybe if he sees it or somebody knows it. I want to say like July 22nd or something like that. But he's going to have his kickoff, and then we'll start seeing more. And that's when they can start doing fundraising, and you guys can figure out in what way you can support the different folks. From Advanced Etowah side of things, the intention is to continue to having the discussion from all sides. Whoever's running, I want to make sure that people are heard their ideas and their viewpoints, and that the citizens of Etowah are able to understand, and so the only qualification isn't that your name starts with A, so that you're at the top of the ballot, or that you're the same name that just keep popping up and people keep voting for you. So that's my goal
and if you're running for office and you are, in my opinion, are smart, you will talk to Advance Etowah. You will come on this, and you will talk to people,
and get. I mean, I'm sure WMGJ and Mr. Zachary would love. I mein, he's just fun to talk to, guys. You just gotta jump on there. I don't know that there's much else. I think it's time to get to work on this Friday. So guys, appreciate you tuning in. Wow, we've had pretty much 100 folks.
Oh wow! Good morning, everyone.
What do you guys do for a living?
Maybe they got their headphones on or their AirPods
I got you.
I'm
extremely thankful. And to those of you that may listen, of course, if you make it down this path, if you listen this far later on in the day or the days to come, then you're awesome. But guys, thanks for hanging in there with us. Hopefully we got most of your questions answered, and we'll continue to do our best. Probably don't expect too much out of Christie next week. They got a lot of moving parts going on with that. But we'll keep rolling with the punches as well. They keep trying to throw them, and it's
we have so many resources. I just don't. Whenever there's a punch thrown, I have people just come out of the woodwork going, here's what you can. So that's why I thank this county, this group, because whenever whenever there's a problem or an issue that comes up, just people come out of and said, I'll solve it. We'll solve it. And I'm just sort of the vehicle in order to do all of that. You are coming together and you are solving this. So just thank you to this group and the county for the commitment. Everyone is so kind. Whenever there's a court date that's coming up, I was telling, people text me or PM me, good luck. Like, stop being so nice to me. I have to be, in court today. I need to be mean. Someone be mean to me. Yes, everyone's so nice.
So there you go. When you hear she's going to be in court, post a bunch of ugly stuff about Christie Knowles, and get her riled up. I
appreciate the prayers, though. I really do. I appreciate all the prayers.
So it's wow. It's definitely been interesting. As I posted last night when I posted that PDF, this is definitely getting old. But at the same time, I am so encouraged, and I would love to get after actually fixing problems and be done.
That's right. With this nonsense.
Just be done with this nonsense.
This nonsense and move on.
Yep. And it's incredible that we got a U.S. congressman. That this has gone to the federal level, and that a congressman wrote a letter to. I mean, that's very unusual, and awesome. But let's not lose the perspective. This is still a local thing. It is still in the hands of local folks on the airport authority and the city council. It is in their hands. It is not in their lawyers' hands or any of that. And it can be done.
Their lawyers work for them. And if the airport authority says, this is nonsense, we want it to stop, they could do it. And so we never need to lose sight. We've said from the day one, this is local. We need to fix this here. We need to rely on ADEM or the FAA or anybody. We need to fix it. And we can. And it's time to fix it.
Absolutely. With that, y'all have a great day and a great weekend. And